So I had just finished loading up the empty vessels, um, and so I've got these basically post-extraction vessels, and now I have opened these guys up to let. Remember, it was running at 21, and I have stopped the pump. Stop the pump here. You know, it's just a button thing. You turn it on, turn it off. And when I've stopped the pump, and this was at 21, and I open these outputs, it will essentially share that pressure, which was 21, to these vessels, which had been at 0, and that is essentially what would be equalizing at this point. And so you would want that 5.5 to reach some equalized value. And so at this point, we're preparing to run these three. So once that's equalized, I think maybe it'll equalize at like 7 or 7.2. I'm just gonna open that all the way to speed up the process. You don't want to open it all the way right away, because what ends up happening is there's just way too much pressure that's being exerted on very small pipes. Because if you look at the pipes, they're quite tiny. And so you don't want to overexert the capacity of that pipe. So I'm equalizing it. So it's now equalized at 7.5 across the board. Well, this guy's having issues, so I'm just going to wait for that vessel 5 to equalize with everybody else. Okay. And this will also be a cleaning run, because in the previous demo, it was a cleaning run, but it was in the middle of a cleaning run. So now we're going to start a cleaning run, which is essentially the same as a normal run, with 2 exceptions. In this particular case, the vessels are completely empty because we're cleaning. And so what you don't want is like crude coming out. I'm trying to open this with one hand and it's very hard, but we'll get to that later. Right now, it seems to have balanced out at around 8, so I would consider that pretty balanced out. Okay, and then I'm just going to, we're doing 1 to 3. So we're essentially going to build up 1 to 3, which means the output will be closed. So we're going to stop the flow by closing all the outputs. And we're stopping the flow so that we can build up pressure. Because if you don't close these valves, the gas is just going to keep going through. You'll eventually open it up when you already have your supercritical pressure that you've predetermined, which in my case is 22 megapascals. That should be when these outputs are open. But for now, since we're building it up, we're going to make sure that they are closed. So in fact, they are. You can double, triple check. It's always safe to double, triple check, especially right now for me because I'm showing this demo. So I'm making sure that I didn't absent-mindedly leave one on. So I'm opening up my inlet 1, and then I just kind of backtrack a little bit and make it horizontal. That is my indication, because these valves, you know, they all look alike, right? And there's no indication otherwise saying that it's on or off. It'll just kind of look, you know, some random position, and you don't know which ones are open rather, and which ones are closed. So if it's open all the way, it looks like that, but you don't know what that means. It looks open or closed, and you're not really gonna have the liberty of checking when everything's running, and everything is gonna be dangerous to change up. So I just indicate that it's open by making it horizontal. And so I'm opening that up. And so for the vessels that are running, I'm making sure that the inlets are open so that when we do some passive, or rather, so the equalization is a passive mass transfer of gas from an area of high concentration to a low area of concentration. But right now we're going to do an active filling up of the rest of this pressure from that vessel into these vessels. So these are closed so that we stop it, and these inlets are open so that we are able to let it in. And then similarly, I'm going to close inlets 4, 5, 6 so that it can just only flow through the output of 4, 5, 6. And if that's confusing to you right now, I will reiterate it later. But for now, we're just going to close these up. Because what's happening is the outputs are open for 4, 5, 6, right? They're all open. They're horizontal. They're open. And inlets 4, 5, 6 will be closed. And all the gas, when I turn on the pump back again, all the gas will flow from here through the output into the input, or the inlet of 3, and then it'll stop at the output so that it can build pressure. So double checking that output 4, 5, 6 is open, inlets 5, 6, and inlet 4 are closed. Everything is good. Okay, and then I'm going to turn on the main pump, and then I'm going to open V27. And what that'll do is basically share. The machine is essentially taking all the CO2, and you can see it's a very high number. It's in the thousands. Remember that it was running at around like 600 to 800. Well, now it's at 1500, which means it's got healthy flow. And I'm opening up V27 because, as you remember, in V27, it essentially shares all these gases from this side of the machine to this side of the machine, because ultimately your goal at this step is to be able to get the pressure of whatever you're going to run next, to get them up to 21. And right now it's at 9, and very quickly this has gone down to 4 it's gone down to 7 from 8. So it's essentially going from the output of 4, 5, 6, and it's sharing it into the inlet of 1, 2, 3, and at the same time my valve 27 is open so that all these other guys, remember, This was at 18, this was at 10, this was in and around the same level, and these are lower because every single cylinder is making an effort to share and redistribute the gas only to 1, 2, 3 so that we can get started. And once that's started and all the switches come up and turn on, where's that thing? When we build up the pressure here, when we build up enough pressure, I usually I pick like between 14 to 16. When that reaches 14 to 16 megapascal, then I would turn off and shut off valve 27 so that I can start the recovery. And the recovery pump will basically actively pump alongside the main pump. The recovery pump will turn on so as to build up the pressure even more. And so right now I'm just watching this. I'm going to put this to the my universal open position so that I know what's happening. And this is basically just a waiting game where I'm waiting for this to essentially turn to 14. And when that turns to 14, I'll come back on. But for now, I'll pause it.